So we are now on day 2 after the biggest leak in Google history. And if you weren't aware already, there were a treasure trove of documents released that detailed about 14,000 different ranking features. I made this video yesterday giving my first impressions and going over this article over here at ipullrank.com. So definitely be sure to check that one out as well, because today we're going to be going over 2 other articles, which are from Rand Fishkin over at SparkToro, as well as Glenn Alsop over at Detailed. And also be sure to go ahead and give my channel a subscribe, because really we're going to be going over this information for weeks, months, or maybe even years, because there's just so much here. And it's really going to take a long time to pour over these 14,000 different ranking features, all of these documents, analyze everything, test everything, validate everything. So yeah, stay tuned. So first up, we have Rand's article over here on sparktoro.com. Of course, many of you probably know Rand. He was formerly with Moz and is seen as a very well-respected person in the SEO industry. So I want to touch on and comment on some of the things that he mentions in his article here. First of all, we have the system NavBoost, and I think I would go ahead and remember this name if I were you. It says here, NavBoost also scores queries for user intent. For example, certain threshold of attention and clicks on videos or images will trigger video or image features for that query and related NavBoost associated queries. Meaning that with all of the clicks and user engagement data that Google is measuring, if people are clicking on images and videos, you might be able to spark these image and video carousels in the SERPs. Also talking about NavBoost here, saying that if people search for Rand Fishkin and they don't find his website SparkToro, and then they change their search to SparkToro and click on SparkToro and the results, then SparkToro could receive a boost for the keyword Rand Fishkin, which is very interesting. So Google learning to associate 2 different keywords, 2 different entities together based on user engagement in their search. I feel like this could be definitely something that SEOs will begin to abuse if they haven't already. I won't go into it in detail, but he also confirms that this appears to be a legitimate set of documents from inside Google's search division and contains an extraordinary amount of previously unconfirmed information about Google's inner workings, which if you watched my video yesterday, we went over the fact that a lot of this stuff is kind of stuff that smart SEOs have been saying for a while, but a lot of people still denied. But there's also a lot of very new stuff in here as well. And yeah, 2,500 technical documents, actually insane. But whereas libraries are public, Google search is one of the most secretive, closely guarded black boxes in the world. In the last quarter of a century, no leak of this magnitude or detail has ever been reported from Google search division. Yeah, I really can't understate how important this is and just the sheer magnitude of this leak. We talked about this yesterday, but here is NavBoost and some of the different types of clicks they are measuring. As Google appears to have ways to filter out clicks they don't want to count in their ranking systems and ones they want to include. So this is obvious for anyone who's doing CTR manipulation, click-through rate manipulation. It's very hard to do good CTR manipulation, and Google is actively fighting against that. And again, he's talking about Chrome browser clicks, which we talked about yesterday. But this part's pretty interesting to me. Google likely uses the number of clicks on pages in Chrome browsers and uses that to determine the most popular or important URLs on a site, which go into calculation of which to include in the site links feature. So Google is using clicks to determine what your site links are. So if you do a Google search for a brand or anything really, you might see these other links that appear under the website, and these could be determined just by what people are clicking on your website. Also, there appear to be whitelists in travel, COVID, and politics. The most interesting one for me here is travel. I'm not really sure why they are treating travel differently, and we'll get more into that in just a little bit. And people had already speculated that Google was basically cooking the results for COVID-based stuff and politics-based stuff, especially during election times, but this is proof that they were actually doing it. And I don't want to get too much into politics or anything, but I think it's important to note that Google can and will go in and whitelist things in certain industries when they want to circumvent their algorithm and want specific stuff to appear. It also mentions that it's unclear if this is exclusively for Google's travel search tab, which could make a lot of sense of why travel would be treated differently because Google has their own travel search tab, but just something to keep in mind. Then here we have some ranking features for Google quality raters, which are actually humans that go in and score sites, and they were supposed to be doing this for Google's machine learning to train their machine learning algorithms. It says how influential these rater-based signals are and what precisely they're used for is unclear to me in the initial read. But it says the quality raters may be directly involved in Google's search system rather than simply training a set of experiments, which is very interesting. And in yesterday's video, we talked about links and linked emotions quite a bit, but there is definitely something interesting here that I did not talk about yesterday. And that is that Google uses click data to determine how to weight links and rankings. So for the example here, if Forbes.com/cats has no clicks, it goes into the low quality index and the link is ignored. If Forbes.com/dogs has a high volume of clicks from verifiable devices, it goes in the high quality index and the link passes ranking signals. So basically they are saying that if links are getting clicks, as in backlinks, if you get a backlink on a website and that backlink is getting clicked, then it is more powerful. However, I'm not really 100% sure about this one, being a link builder myself and just having a pretty good understanding of how things work in this industry. I've got this link building agency over here at sterlingsalot.co, and we've been in business for about 6 years now and have about 2,000 clients at this point in time. And I'm not saying that links getting clicks won't make them more powerful, but I don't think links that are not getting clicks makes them irrelevant. And I think the best example of this would be PBN links, because PBN websites, no one really goes to PBN sites. PBN sites don't really have rankings. They don't really get much traffic, if any. And I don't really like to use PBN links myself much these days. I still do use them from time to time, but I use them at a very small percentage. It's not really all the time like we used to back in the day. But I also can't ignore that PBN backlinks can still really work. And this goes with a bunch of other more black hat type links as well that I don't really use very much. But not just black hat links, even the more white hat stuff, for example, like guest posts and link insertions or niche edit. A lot of the times with these types of links, you can see link juice start passing very quickly, like within a day or two or even a week or two of when the links are placed. And yeah, these links could be getting clicked, but I think for a lot of the time, these links are not really getting clicked. They've just been added and you can see results quite quickly. So again, I'm not saying that this is bogus, and that I'm not saying that click data and that clicks on links won't make them better, but I don't think that links not getting clicks also makes them completely irrelevant. But this one is definitely very interesting for me. Also mentions here that links from the low quality index won't hurt a site's rankings, they are merely ignored. This is something we've been preaching for a while now, is that it seems that people don't really get in trouble for links much these days unless they're doing some crazy kind of like anchor text stuff or just doing things in a very non-best practice kind of way. And that Google just seems to ignore stuff rather than hurting you for it. You still do see link building manual penalties from time to time, but it's very rare these days. And then you also have these kind of spam backlinks that Google should be ignoring, but it seems like they really aren't ignoring. But you can go ahead and check this article on Sterling Salot's blog on these k.html links that I wrote pretty recently for more info on that. We have some of his key takeaways here, and then he says brand matters more than anything else, which is definitely something we've been preaching now here for a little while. That big, powerful brands that dominate the web are greater than small independent sites and businesses. If there is one universal piece of advice I had for marketers seeking to broadly improve their organic search rankings and traffic, it would be build a notable, popular, and well-recognized brand in your space outside of Google search. So in this video over here on my channel where I talk about traffic diversification, the whole idea here, besides just getting traffic from Google, because Google could decide to just turn off your traffic one day, the whole idea here is really to build a brand so Google sees you as a more well-trusted entity. You're getting traffic from all over the place and you're doing things that a real business would do online to spread their presence rather than trying to just focus on SEO only and try to game Google's algorithm. And that's not to say you can't rank without a very well-established brand on stuff other than Google search. However, moving forward in SEO in the digital marketing space in general, this is definitely something, and I 100% agree with Rand here, you should be focusing on brand building. He also says here that EAT might not matter as directly as some SEOs think. I feel like SEOs are pretty divided on this. There are a ton of SEOs who believe that EAT is super important, and there are a ton of SEOs who believe it's BS and just largely based on backlinks and stuff like that. Rand thinks that it's about 80% propaganda and 20% substance. And I agree with that to an extent, but I think that there is this 20% substance here. And I think moving forward into the future, what Google's trying to do with its quality raters is to move this. And so it's not 80% propaganda and it'll be more like 80% substance. So again, if we're looking at the future and you want to be safe into the future of ranking, I think focusing on EAT could still be a very good thing to keep your site safe and your ranking safe. And like we saw yesterday, there is the ranking feature where Google is tracking authors, and mentioned above, and the other ranking features where Google is tracking different quality rater signals and might even be using them actively in the algorithm already. Yes, maybe EAT doesn't matter as much as some people think, but I think it's definitely still a thing. And especially if you get a quality rater landing on your website, you're definitely going to want some EAT so that these ranking features don't get filled out negatively for your website. Number 3, I think some people might try to take this as a bombshell, but it's really not. It says content and links are secondary when user intention around navigation and the patterns that the intent creates are present. So if you invest heavily in link building and content optimization, it's unlikely they could outrank the user intent signals. That's not user signals, that's user intent signals. So if you remember up here, we were talking about NavBoost and how they're measuring clicks in the SERPs to determine what users are actually trying to find. So if you're trying to rank a page that is about what are niche edits and you're trying to rank it for the term by niche edits and people are not clicking that, then you are not fulfilling the user intent and they are measuring this with clicks on their SERP. So over here, back on the YouTube channel, I had this video where I concluded that backlinks I think are still the #1 ranking factor on Google. But then I made this other video about a week later, it says you will never rank without this. And I'm basically talking about if you're not matching search intent and you're not matching the content that Google wants to provide for a certain SERP based on their click data, It doesn't matter how good the content is, it doesn't matter how good your backlinks are, you will likely never rank for that term. But this kind of stuff is considered beginner SEO in most circles. So yes, you need to match search intent or user intent, but then the other stuff becomes much more important after you do that. He then says classic ranking factors like page rank, anchors, and text matching have been waning in importance over the years, so they're becoming less important, but page titles are still quite important. And I think this is basically what I was just talking about as well. If you're not matching user intent, if you're not matching what users actually want to find for something, then they're not going to show it. So you could say they have waned in importance a little bit, in that before you used to be able to just brute force something. Like I could make the article for what are niche edits rank for by niche edits just by building really good backlinks to it with good anchor text. Whereas now you really need to match that user intent. And then again, he's talking about brand building here, saying for small and medium businesses and newer creator and publishers, SEO is likely to show poor returns until you've established credibility, navigational demand, and a strong reputation among a sizable audience. And this just really speaks to how Google is definitely shifting to these larger authority sites and preferring these big brands in search these days, which is a trend I've definitely noticed with every algorithm update that's happened since I started SEO about 10 years ago. Yes, it's definitely harder to compete now, but you can definitely still compete with smaller sites. You just have to pick and choose your battles pretty intelligently. So yeah, great article by Rand here. Definitely highly respect this guy. You can head over to SparkToro to read this one. Now let's hop over and read Glenn's article over here on detail. And if y'all don't know Glenn Alsop already, he probably puts out some of my favorite SEO content that really just accumulates huge amounts of data and puts together these awesome studies. So definitely head over to detailed.com if you want to read some of those. First of all, we have this feature is non-location specific. I think it's saying if you're getting clicks from all over the world, that your content could really rank all over the place. Whereas if you are only getting clicks from one location, then you're going to be confined to your geographic area. Then we have these create date and expired date features where they're talking about the number of days since a domain was created or since it last expired that they are tracking here. Definitely something good to keep in mind. And this is interesting as well. We have the feature is nofollow. Because if the page has multiple links to the same URL, all of them must be nofollow to set this field. So I guess if you are getting links from a website, and let's say that all of them are nofollow and then one is do follow, then it will still weight the nofollow links differently because the one is set as do follow. Not really sure. It's a little bit confusing. But there's also some evidence here, and Kyle Roof did some cool testing on this where nofollow links can definitely still pass link juice, and Google really just takes this nofollow tag as a suggestion these days rather than something to say, oh, this is not going to pass any link juice. And if you've done any link building before, if you've done any like Haro or Connectively, or if you've done any digital PR link building, a lot of these backlinks end up being nofollow, but these things can really boost your rankings tremendously. Then we have this one here, phrase anchor spam count. And this is basically talking about when some spam links are coming in, they are measuring the velocity and the anchor text to try to judge if they are legitimate or not. But how many spam phrases found in the anchors among unique domains? Over how many days 80% of these phrases were discovered? So again, we're talking about like link velocity here. Time when the anchor spam spike ended. Average daily rate of spam anchor discovery. So basically, I think this one is a duh for a lot of people who are doing link building already. But you want to really space your links out. You want to drip feed them. You want to do things in a natural way than really trying to spam things very quickly. But this could also have connotations for negative SEO as well. What if you're doing negative SEO or someone's doing negative SEO to you rather, and they are spreading the links out rather than just doing them in one big lazy blast in the beginning? So I think there could be possible ways to get around this and that they could actually harm your site using these kind of more sophisticated tactics. Then again, here we have the quality travel goods sites data where he's talking about how travel sites have some of their own features here. So yeah, not really sure why travel sites are treated differently, but it could just be for their travel tab like we talked about earlier. Then again, here we have the topicality score, which is something we talked about yesterday a little bit, and it measures how related the entity is for the overall topic of the document. So again, sticking to what your article is supposed to be about, or even sticking to what your site is seen as an authority on or an expert on, could be things to keep in mind here. And Glenn's article definitely seems to be a little shorter than Rand's, and I would expect Glenn to do a longer article here in the future, just given what some of his other work has been like. So I will definitely be paying attention to this to see if he releases any other documents. So be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you can stay updated on this pretty awesome leak we got going on here. I'm not going to lie, I've been loving this. This is the biggest leak that's ever happened with Google, so I've been waking up every day just trying to see what new stuff there is online and what we can try to dig up and analyze and learn from. And like I mentioned before, there are 14,000 of these ranking features, and I think about 2,500 documents released, so this is really going to take a long time to pour over. But anyways, that's it for this time, guys. Go ahead and give me a sub on YouTube, and also give me a follow over on LinkedIn and X, as there's a ton going on these platforms as well. All right, guys, bye-bye. See you next time.